holy mamba, I don't want to do this. I don't know what holy mamba means. I don't think I've ever said it before. Okay. I feel like my mind is behind me on a diving board, like the high dive is just trying to nudge me and shove me. Just like, just go, just go. Like, you go. You're so brave suddenly. Oh, my mind has been coming at me the last 2 days. And I cried a lot yesterday. Did a ton of looking and introspection and writing, and I think I've done more of that. I mean, I feel like I've done it every day of my whole life, but this is distinctly different, and I've done more in the last 3.5 weeks than I've done in years. And that means even when I was on a call every day doing it with someone, this is different. And I know I could call someone and talk through things, and I could get a coach. But I'm holding myself accountable to the things that I am committed to doing. And that's really why I've ever wanted a coach, really was that, because I would quit things or I'd get scared. And now when I'm feeling scared, that's where I go. So that's very different. So fear's, of course, there, but it's not, so I guess stopping me from moving. And what I was really wrestling with yesterday and this morning and last night was where I'm feeling fear is really letting go of how I think I'm supposed to look in all of this, because my mind is trying to tell me the story of what this is all supposed to be, and my soul has no story for it. It's just showing up. It doesn't even care how it goes. It's just about expression. But my mind, and I'm like this about just about anything, I like finite decisions. Is it black or white? Is it yes or no? And yet I very much am comfortable in gray. Like my soul is just... That's why when I left the religion I was in, and so many people came to me to say, look, we'll take you here, we'll get these questions, answers, and that. And I said, I absolutely respect where you're coming from. And I have tons of compassion, empathy for it. But I've let myself cry about it for 2 years because I felt sad that you were sad. I know what that fear feels like when someone leaves the nest, leaves the herd. Your fears for them. And also, what does that mean about you? If they leave and they're happy, or they're not going to be there with us on the other side, and all that, that's scary. It's terrifying. So when they would talk to me, I said, here's the problem is, I know how you feel. I tried to save everyone around me. If they went even a little astray, if they tried to leave, whatever, I was there to try and bring them back in, because the thought of losing them or them losing themselves or whatever was horrifying to me. But most of those people that are in that space have never been on the other side too, and can look back and have that conversation. They haven't had it both ways to see what that's like smack in the middle. So I said, you can take me to the headquarters of wherever and get my... I didn't really have questions because I didn't study doctrine. I was raised, I knew what it was, but I never went and checked things out, get the dirt on things. I didn't care. My soul just grew and it didn't fit in that building anymore. That's what I knew. When I tried to go in there, I felt like I was suffocating. I felt panicked, I was uncomfortable, And when I started reading things that were very expansive and about just the soul being and present and nothing even really crazy or funky, just probably things that normal people read, I just couldn't help but feel called there. And so I became in conflict. Like, here's this big open space for me to grow and run and love and share. And then in the other space, I didn't know how to do that. Some people can't. I couldn't do it. So that's why my mind tosses things back and forth sometimes, like my experience of what this is supposed to be. It's like, well, I need a clear plan. What's the outcome here? What's the goal? And is it working yet? You know, what's the update? I don't know, I'm crying today. That's the update. I feel like a slob. That's the update. I feel abandoned by half my family and friends. That's the update. I don't know. So what I see in relationships as well is I'm getting this nagging feeling of being either feeling like I'm being tossed out because I'm uncomfortable, I'm weird, I'm flaky, this is one of those things. I don't know. I've never done anything like this, but my mind is telling me that's the conversation. You're being made fun of, you're rolling their eyes. And of course, my mind interprets it that way because no one replies to anything I say or what I'm doing, and it's just dead silence. So my mind doesn't know what to do with that, so of course it's going to go to the worst case scenario, and that will show me all the past things like, this is why this hasn't been healthy, this is why whatever. And yesterday when I was thinking about it, I think mostly where I get trapped is I try and get things so fucking right that I get paralyzed. So if leaving a relationship would be healthy for me, my mind goes to, well, if you leave, then really you didn't get the lesson. You need to stay and just love unconditionally. You need, I mean, if you really got what you talk about, if you were really present, if you were really all these things that you read about, all these, like, whatever, they wouldn't even bother you. You would just feel pure love. You'd be out talking to them right now, trying to share with them and getting their hearts to open and helping them where you can help them. And not only that, it goes to, this is the bottom line of everything that you ever feel fear about. So you can have a conversation about, I'm not good with money, or I don't have enough money, or I don't have friends, or my relationship's rocky. And sometimes your mind can just say that, like, yeah, I'm having problems in my relationship, and it's, or yeah, I don't have money right now. And they'll say, but I'll have it later. It'll add on to it. But what it doesn't ever want you to say is, and what that means about me is. So if it's, I don't have any money, and what that means about me is, that's what keeps you awake at night. You might be thinking about your bank statements, but really it's, and what this means about me is. You want to clear stuff out, that's where it is. So I was thinking that yesterday, I thought, well, it's not even just that I feel sad or frustrated about the situation in my relationships with family. It's that, what does that mean about me? And then I see pictures of people making fun of me or rolling their eyes or not wanting me around anymore, not letting me around their kids. Not ever letting me back in if I don't do it their way, or if I just say I gotta go, or no thank you, or I don't want to participate. It means I'm a fraud. It means they know I'm a fake. They'll talk about me. They'll make fun of me. I know I'm not crying now, but I bawled yesterday, the whole day. And what's amazing is I stayed in a marriage for 22 years because of this conversation. If you leave, that's not unconditional love. That's not Christ-like love. That's not enlightenment. That's not spirituality. That's not, you're a quitter. You're a fake. And on and on and on. You know, you're not perfect. You're making mistakes. Whatever. People are going to judge you. They're going to know that you really don't have your act together. You failed. And my soul is completely fine with every one of those labels because it doesn't mean anything. In fact, when I sank down, melting, thinking, what if I left? What if I said I don't want to participate? I can't right now. I love you and I just can't. Or what if I just walked away and never said anything? And my soul was like, okay, yeah, that sounds good. And not even like in a preferential way. It's just, like I've said, the soul is just this. It actually doesn't have a preference. Now, you may have an inclination about something, and maybe you're being guided, but it doesn't, because you can't really not love somebody. You might feel like you hate them. You might feel resentful or whatever. But even if I tell people, you know, I can't be a part of things, or I want a divorce, or whatever it is, for me, I don't stop loving that person. I don't stop wishing them well. I don't. In fact, sometimes the relationship gets much better. And maybe I'm feeling called to move in that direction because there's something for them. So when I'm present, what I know is what's best for me is best for them and is best for the world. And people want to say, that can't be true. What if you just start chugging whiskey and you take pills and whatever? Well, two things. There's always the paradox to everything. Always. So if you're coming from a place of knowingness and your center, you're probably going to not do addictive things to hurt people. You're just going to be in movement. They don't have to agree with you, but you're just in your centered place. And I think maybe things unfold quicker that way, or it's easier to see, or it's just more comfortable. I don't know. And if someone's pounding whiskey and they're taking pills, and even if they die, right? So you could say, well, that wasn't best for everybody. Can we absolutely know that that's true? I can't. In fact, I could tell you a ton of terrible mistakes I've made. Terrible mistakes people I've been in relationships with made, my kids have made, my friends, family have made, and they became some of the biggest blessings I've ever had. Huge outpourings, and sometimes, most of the time, far better than when I got it right and played it safe, or when they did. It looked like the sky was falling, and then all of a sudden someone else pops up and shows up in a new way, like, oh, you know, something freaked them out that I did or they did, and then a new way of being shows up for someone else. It's like, oh, well, gosh, now I'm going to step into that because that didn't work. You know, some things happened with my husband years ago, and all of a sudden I started my first business because I wanted to learn to rely on myself. And I'd always wanted to have my own business. Since I was a kid, I told people I'm going to have my own company. I'm going to do my own thing. That called to me. And then that just gave me the opportunity to do it. So some people were like, well, gosh, it almost seems like that thing was meant to happen, even though how could it? Because it wasn't a good thing. Well, maybe it's all good. And maybe leaving something gives people an opportunity to grow. It certainly would give me one. Because I like my people. And I'm not around people a lot, but my family is where I try to have a safe space. It doesn't work all that well sometimes, because I always feel like I'm the weirdo. So I try and compensate for that. So I don't always feel just at rest. I feel a little bit of tension and anxiousness. So it's, when they say everything's for you, I mean, I know this is for me. My mind is just like, you cannot leave. You can't openly say, I'm not participating anymore. I'm done. You can't. And then it just shows me terrible, scary pictures. And my soul's like, if you're on pace, then that's part of the whole picture. So how could you not? Just keep going. It's fine. They're fine. They may kick and scream and threaten or whatever, but they're fine. It's just pitching a fit, just like your mind's pitching a fit about if you're allowed to go or not. So many times we feel trapped in a job, we feel in a relationship, or even stuff with our kids. They'll reject me, they'll think I've failed, they'll think I didn't truly love them, and they're going to attack and they're going to attack. It's just because you're not showing up the way that makes them comfortable. Just like right now, people aren't showing up the way that makes me feel comfortable. So my mind tried to go into the finite, like, all right, let's just send a message. Let's just handle this. Let's just decide once and for all. Well, there's no once and for all. That's ridiculous. And also, I remember when I went to Byron Katie for New Year's weekend. It's the best thing you could ever do for yourself on a New Year's weekend. This girl asked, just from the audience, said, when do you know is the right time to leave, like a relationship? How do you even know? And Katie said, well, you'd be opening the door and have your suitcases. See, we complicate it. My mind complicates it. Our stories, the pictures, all that stuff, what we think we need, that all complicates it. The soul is just emotion. And it knows everything's fine. And I love that she said that, because that was when I was trying to figure out to leave, and I hated feeling like I was gathering evidence, enough hate or enough bad memories to force myself out when I didn't feel that way about him. I deeply loved him. He's my best friend. So I hated it. So when she said that, I was like, oh my gosh, I can stop with the evidence nonsense. We're taught that. You got to have enough shit on people to leave. Make sure that it hurts enough so that you really know you got to go. And then you're right when you leave. What if you just leave and you just are there and you wait till that moment and you don't have to do anything else? You're just leaving. So I think that's where I'm at. And, you know, talk about evolving out loud. I mean, I just named it that because that was the name of the seminar, but that's what this is. I get to do it out loud, and then I get to rewatch this and then write. So definitely this is an evolving conversation. And I'll just wait as I move.